Welcome everyone! In this video, we're ranking the top 15 3D Souls-like games of all time, using a data-driven approach based on Metacritic scores. As always, this list combines critic and user reviews into a single average, with extra weight given to games that maintained high scores across a large number of players. For each title, only the highest rated version or platform is considered, and in the case of ties, the game with more total reviews ranks higher. Now, before we begin, a quick clarification. This list focuses strictly on 3D Souls-like games. That means stamina-based combat, checkpoint-driven progression, meaningful death penalties, and an emphasis on risk versus reward. Because of that, some popular games are intentionally excluded. Titles that are closer to action RPGs, narrative adventures, or games inspired by Souls mechanics, but without the full system, don't make the cut here. Those deserve their own lists. This isn't about personal favorites, it's about which Souls-like games truly earned their place through critical reception and long-term player consensus. And as always, if you agree, disagree, or think a game should have ranked higher or lower, let me know in the comments. Now, let's start the list. Ashen approaches the Souls-like formula from a different angle, replacing oppressive darkness with a minimalist, almost serene visual style that contrasts sharply with its underlying tension. Beneath that clean aesthetic lies a familiar foundation: stamina-based combat, deliberate enemy encounters, and a world that slowly unfolds through exploration rather than exposition. What truly sets Ashen apart is its passive multiplayer system, where other players can seamlessly appear as companions without overt matchmaking, reinforcing the game's themes of trust and isolation. Combat is less punishing than traditional Souls titles, but still demands positioning, timing, and patience, especially in boss encounters. While its narrative is understated, Ashen's world-building relies on atmosphere and implication, allowing players to piece together meaning through environment and progression. It may not push the genre forward mechanically, but it offers a distinct, thoughtful interpretation of the Souls-like identity. Remnant 2 takes the Souls-like foundation and fuses it with a third-person shooter framework, creating a hybrid that feels both familiar and surprisingly fresh. At its core, the game still revolves around stamina management, precise dodging, and punishing enemy encounters, but every fight is filtered through ranged combat and resource pressure. What truly defines Remnant 2 is its procedurally assembled worlds, where level layouts, bosses, and storylines change between playthroughs. This system gives the game an unusual sense of unpredictability for a Souls-like, rewarding experimentation and replayability rather than memorization alone. Boss encounters emphasize adaptability over rigid patterns, often blending crowd control with mechanical gimmicks that challenge positioning and awareness. While its tone leans more action-oriented, Remnant 2 remains deeply rooted in Souls principles, offering a distinct interpretation of the genre built around variety and player choice. The first Berserker. Khazan builds its Souls-like identity around speed, aggression, and precision, drawing heavily from action-forward combat philosophies while maintaining strict stamina and punishment systems. Unlike more methodical Souls titles, Khazan pushes players toward relentless offense, rewarding mastery of timing, parries, and skill chaining rather than cautious spacing alone. Its combat depth comes from a robust skill system that allows extensive customization, encouraging different playstyles without diluting difficulty. Boss encounters are fast and demanding, often designed to overwhelm players who hesitate or rely too heavily on defensive play. Visually, the game's sharp anime-inspired aesthetic sets it apart from traditional dark fantasy Souls-likes, while its narrative focuses on vengeance and downfall rather than cryptic mythology. Khazan may lean closer to character action sensibilities, but its structure, challenge, and progression firmly place it within the modern Souls-like space. Star Wars Jedi Survivor expands on its predecessor by leaning further into Souls-like structure while maintaining a cinematic, accessible identity. Combat revolves around stamina-like meters, posture management, and deliberate enemy encounters, blending lightsaber duels with careful positioning and timing. What sets Survivor apart is its stance system, which allows players to radically shift combat style mid-playthrough, from heavy, deliberate strikes to agile, crowd-focused approaches. Exploration plays a larger role here, with semi-open environments that encourage backtracking, shortcuts, and optional challenges reminiscent of classic Souls world design. While the game is more forgiving than traditional Souls-likes, death still carries consequence, and boss encounters demand pattern recognition rather than brute force. Jedi Survivor doesn't aim to be brutally punishing. Instead, it translates Souls mechanics into a polished, narrative-driven experience that balances challenge with approachability. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order marked a major shift for licensed games by openly embracing Souls-like design within a story-driven framework. Combat emphasizes timing, stamina-like resource management, and enemy pattern recognition, especially during one-on-one encounters where positioning and parries matter more than raw aggression. What makes Fallen Order stand out is its measured pacing. Instead of overwhelming the player with systems, it introduces mechanics gradually, allowing mastery to develop alongside Cal Kestis' growth as a character. Exploration borrows heavily from Souls-inspired level design, with interconnected areas, shortcuts, and meditation points functioning as traditional checkpoints. While more forgiving than genre purists might expect, the game preserves the core tension of risk and recovery after death. Fallen Order succeeds by translating Souls-like fundamentals into a cinematic experience without sacrificing challenge, making it an important gateway title within the genre. Lies of P is one of the most confident reinterpretations of the Souls formula, blending classic mechanics with a distinct narrative identity inspired by a dark reimagining of Pinocchio. Combat is deliberate and demanding, built around stamina management, precise dodging, and a strong emphasis on perfect guards, which reward mastery over avoidance. What sets the game apart is its weapon assembly system, allowing players to mix blades and handles to tailor reach, speed, and scaling. This flexibility adds depth without undermining balance. Boss fights are tightly designed, often pushing players to learn patterns through repeated failure rather than brute force. Narratively, Lies of P leans into choice and consequence, using player decisions to subtly shape the world and its endings. It respects the Souls tradition of challenge while introducing enough original systems to feel purposeful, not derivative. Nioh 2 takes the Souls-like framework and pushes it toward extreme mechanical depth, offering one of the most complex combat systems in the genre. While stamina management and punishing encounters remain central, the game's identity is defined by stance-based combat, key pulsing, and rapid decision-making that rewards technical mastery over patience. Enemy design blends traditional yokai folklore with aggressive attack patterns, forcing players to constantly manage pressure rather than wait for safe openings. Boss fights are less about slow memorization and more about execution, demanding consistency and adaptability. Its loot-heavy progression and skill customization lean closer to action RPG territory, but the challenge curve remains uncompromising. Nioh 2 doesn't try to emulate From Software's pacing. Instead, it offers a faster, more demanding interpretation of the Souls-like formula, aimed at players who value depth and precision above all else. Dark Souls 2 expands the series' signature challenge with a deliberate complexity. Its level design emphasizes verticality and hidden shortcuts, encouraging exploration and rewarding observation. Combat is weighty and tactical. Weapon stamina management, precise rolling, and parrying create a rhythm that demands patience and adaptation. The game introduces flexible character builds and a dual attunement magic system, giving players multiple strategic approaches while retaining risk and consequence. Boss fights are not just tests of reflex, but puzzles of timing, spacing, and resource management. Beyond mechanics, its melancholic world reinforces the struggle, making every victory feel hard-earned. Dark Souls 2 is less a game of triumph and more a study in perseverance and mastery. Nioh refines the Souls-like formula with a fierce precision that rewards skill and strategy. Its combat is fluid yet punishing, built around stance management, key recovery, and fast-paced combo-driven attacks, demanding constant awareness of both enemy patterns and your own stamina. The loot system and extensive skill trees encourage experimentation, letting each build feel distinct and meaningful. Unlike many Souls-likes, Nioh leans into risk-reward mechanics with yokai abilities and Amrita farming, creating tension even in routine encounters. Its meticulously crafted Sengoku-era world pulses with danger and atmosphere, making exploration as thrilling as combat. More than just a challenge, Nioh is an elegant study in mastery, teaching patience, adaptability, and the poetry hidden in relentless battle. Dark Souls 1 is the blueprint of modern Souls-likes, a study in tension, reward, and deliberate design. Its interconnected world is a masterclass in environmental storytelling. Every shortcut, hidden path, and subtle landmark shapes your understanding of the world without a single line of exposition. Combat is weighty and precise. Stamina management, timing, and spacing dictate survival, while diverse weapon types and limited healing create meaningful risk-reward decisions. Boss encounters are intricate puzzles of pattern recognition and adaptation, each victory carrying real satisfaction. Beyond mechanics, the game's oppressive atmosphere, haunting soundtrack, and ambiguous lore evoke awe and melancholy. Dark Souls 1 is not merely a game, it is a crucible that tests patience, observation, and resilience. Dark Souls 1 is the blueprint of modern Souls-likes, a study in tension, reward, and deliberate design. Its interconnected world is a masterclass in environmental storytelling. Every shortcut, hidden path, and subtle landmark shapes your understanding of the world without a single line of exposition. Combat is weighty and precise. Stamina management, timing, and spacing dictate survival, while diverse weapon types and limited healing create meaningful risk-reward decisions. Boss encounters are intricate puzzles of pattern recognition and adaptation, each victory carrying real satisfaction. Beyond mechanics, the game's oppressive atmosphere, haunting soundtrack, and ambiguous lore evoke awe and melancholy. Dark Souls 1 is not merely a game, it is a crucible that tests patience, observation, and resilience. Sekiro departs from traditional Souls-like design, replacing RPG progression with precision-driven skill and timing. Combat revolves around posture, deflection, and rhythm, turning every encounter into a tense duel where a single misstep can be fatal. The prosthetic arm and diverse tools add layers of tactical versatility, rewarding creativity and situational awareness. Unlike stamina-focused systems, Sekiro emphasizes momentum and calculated aggression, forcing players to read enemies like a chessboard. Boss fights are high-stakes tests of observation, pattern recognition, and adaptation, each demanding mastery rather than luck. Its vertical, intricately designed world reinforces stealth, traversal, and exploration. More than a game, Sekiro is an exacting study in skill, patience, and the poetry of combat mastery. Dark Souls 3 refines the series' formula, blending speed, fluidity, and elegance without sacrificing its trademark weight and tension. Combat rewards precise timing, stamina management, and adaptability, while weapon arts and diverse build options encourage experimentation and strategic depth. Level design is both expansive and interconnected, guiding exploration with subtle visual cues, hidden paths, and shortcuts that make the world feel alive. Boss encounters are intense tests of observation and mastery, demanding careful study of attack patterns and creative responses. Beyond mechanics, the game's haunting aesthetics, evocative soundtrack, and intricate lore create an atmosphere of melancholy and dread. Dark Souls 3 is a masterclass in tension, skill, and the art of rewarding perseverance. Bloodborne accelerates the Souls formula, trading deliberate caution for aggressive, rhythmic combat that rewards boldness and precision. Its fast-paced melee, paired with firearms for stagger and counterattacks, creates a dance of risk and timing where hesitation is punished. The rally system transforms mistakes into opportunities, encouraging constant engagement rather than retreat. Level design is a gothic labyrinth, layered vertically with shortcuts, hidden lore, and environmental storytelling that deepens immersion. Boss encounters are brutal tests of observation, reflex, and adaptability, often demanding multiple strategies to survive. Beyond mechanics, Bloodborne evokes existential dread and cosmic horror, making every victory feel earned. It's a dark symphony of speed, tension, and mastery, redefining what a Souls-like can be. Elden Ring expands the Souls-like formula into an open-world epic, where exploration, discovery, and adaptability define the experience. Its vast landscapes are meticulously designed, with secrets, dungeons, and verticality rewarding curiosity and careful observation. Combat blends the weight and strategy of traditional Souls mechanics with unprecedented freedom. Melee, magic, stealth, and mounts all interact in dynamic ways, allowing multiple approaches to any challenge. Boss encounters remain rigorous tests of timing, pattern recognition, and resource management, now amplified by scale and unpredictability. Beyond mechanics, the game evokes awe through its haunting environments, emergent stories, and subtle lore, making each triumph feel earned. Elden Ring is a masterclass in freedom, mastery, and the thrill of discovery. And that wraps up our ranking of the top 15 3D Souls-like games based on Metacritic data and long-term player consensus. If you agree with the list, make sure to leave a like. It really helps the video reach more Souls fans. If you disagree, even better. Tell me in the comments which game you think deserved a higher spot, or which one shouldn't be here at all. If you enjoy objective, data-driven rankings like this one, consider subscribing. More deep dive lists are already on the way, including Soulsvanias, survival horror, and genre-defining classics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.